Croeso pawb I Cyfarfod Cyffredinol Blynyddol. Welcome everyone to our annual general meeting. Now before we begin, I'd like to provide a brief technical introduction. We're using Microsoft Teams Live today. Microsoft Teams offers you the opportunity to see live subtitles of today's proceedings. You should see a button in your settings to switch on those subtitles. Subtitles for today's meeting are available in Cymraeg and English, as well as Filipino, Polish, Ukrainian and Urdu. Teams also allows the opportunity to raise questions. On your screen, you should see a tab with a question mark on it. This will normally be in the top right of your screen, and if you click on this, it gives you the opportunity to ask questions to the board today. Now, please accept our apologies that we may not be able to answer all of the questions during today's meeting, but we will continue to update our website with the latest information about the Health Board's plans and priorities. Today's meeting is also being recorded. Now, don't worry, it doesn't share the information about you in the audience, just the information you see broadcast on the screen today. And that means that people who aren't able to join us this afternoon will still be able to watch today's AGM at a later date. So thank you so much for joining, and our AGM will now begin.
Diolch o galon, Adrian. Cael cwpl o dwi, cadeirydd y Bwrdd Iechyd, ac fy mraint ac fy mhleser heddiw ydy eich croesawu chi I gyd, bob un ohonoch chi, i'n cyfarfod. A diolch I chi am ffeindio'r amser I ymuno â ni yn y cyfarfod pwysig hwn. It's a great pleasure and a great privilege to be able to welcome each and every one of you to our annual general meeting today. My name is Carl Cooper and I'm the chair of the Health Board. Before we ask our Chief Executive, Hayley, to share with us her report and our report for the year, just a few initial reflections from me. I've been in role now for nearly a year, so this is my first AGM, and I certainly want to thank my predecessor, Professor Vivian Harpwood, for all the tremendous work she did during her 8 years of tenure in this role, but also a big thank you to all PTHB colleagues for the warm welcome, for the kindness, for the generous spirit and the ready support with which I've been surrounded during the last months. It really has been tremendous. As a board, we've seen lots of change. Of the 10 independent members on our board, some 5 of us have changed during that time. We've said goodbye to Tony Thomas, our independent member for finance, and we've welcomed new members, Councillor Chris Walsh from the local authority, Simon Wright from the Cardiff University, and Jennifer Owen-Adams, who represents the interests of the third sector. Also, our executive team has welcomed a new substantive Director of Public Health in Mererid Bowley. Ac felly, dyn ni wedi gweld gryn dipyn o newidiadau fel bwrdd, ond yn sicr mae wedi bod yn bleser ac yn parhau I fod yn bleser I gydweithio efo cydweithwyr wrth I ni gyflawni ein cyfrifoldebau pwysig ni fel bwrdd yma ymhawys. I should also mention that, of course, we've experienced other significant change during the last year. Our substantive chief executive, Carol Schillerbeer, as I'm sure many will know, is now on secondment, supporting colleagues in Betsy Cadwaladr University Health Board, and that secondment continues until the end of this financial year. We continue to wish Carol well in that new role and those responsibilities, very important, of course, not just for Betsy, but for the whole NHS in Wales. But also, I do want to express our gratitude as a board to Hayley Thomas for stepping into the role of interim chief executive, and indeed to the whole executive team for the way in which that unexpected and significant change in our organisation has been managed so smoothly and so seamlessly. And yes, that's a testament to the skill set of Hayley and executive colleagues, but it's also a testament, I think, and I believe, to the cohesiveness and the effectiveness of the executive team and of the wider board. So a big thank you to everyone who has been involved in managing that change. The last year, as we all know, has been another challenging year for the NHS and for our health board, and Hayley will share with us some of the detail around how the operation and the managing of those challenges has panned out. But I just wanted to say that as a board, we are very committed as a unitary board to bringing together that professional expertise of our executive colleagues with the informed scrutiny of our independent members, so that to the very best of our ability, we can make good decisions in the service of the people of Powys. People are at the centre and of everything that we do and everything that we decide. And that's why we haven't allowed ourselves to be too distracted. We've kept a focus on board effectiveness and board development. And our new board secretary, our new director of corporate governance, Helen Bushell, who unfortunately can't be with us today, has certainly played a very key role in helping us keep on track, keep focused, and concentrate on that important board development. And so the last thing I want to say before I hand over to Hayley is, again, another thank you. During the last year, it's been an absolute delight to get out and about, and I know that the same has been true for my Vice Chair colleague Kirsty, and meet people in our hospitals, our GP colleagues, our mental health teams, and so on and so forth, the therapies teams, learning disabilities, and so on. And I just want to say that every single visit I have made and every single person I have met, I have come away inspired and motivated. There are problems, we have challenges, things are not perfect, but it certainly helps me to come back to this role knowing that what we do day in, day out is really important and makes a difference. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that I've met over the last year. It's been a great privilege. Felly diolch o galon, mae'n barhau fel wedais I fod yn fraint ac yn anrhydedd ac yn bleser I fod yn y rôl yma ac I gydweithio efo chi. So just with those few introductory observations, I'm going to ask now Hayley, our Chief Executive, to share with us her address and to concentrate on the operational delivery over the past year. Felly diolch Hayley, a drosodd I chi.
O, diolch Cadeirydd, diolch Cal. Mae'n bleser cael y fraint I gyflwyno uchafbwyntiau yn yr adroddiad blynyddol I chi heddiw, I roi bach o blas I chi am y gwaith I ni'n wneud fel bwrdd iechyd. Fel dywedodd Carl yn gynharach, roedd Carol Shillibier yn brif weithredwr yn ystod y flwyddyn hyn, felly hoff yn ddiolch yn fawr iawn I fi am ei harweiniad a rhagorol ar hyd y flwyddyn. Thank you, Carl. Thank you very much. It is a pleasure and an honour to present some highlights of the Health Board's work contained within the annual report. As Carl said earlier, Carol Shillibier, our Chief Executive, was in place during this financial year, and I'd like to thank, on behalf of the board, Carol for her outstanding leadership during this time. Carl has already introduced the changes and members of our current board, but I felt it was important to cover that the board is a really important team for the health board. We're responsible for planning and delivering our services for the Powys population, which includes improving population health, promoting well-being, tackling inequalities, and then commissioning primary and community services, mental health services, and securing acute and specialised services for our communities. And we do so across the whole of Wales and England. We commission from a range of providers. We also work in partnership as part of national committees to commission ambulance services, as well as specialised services, and that we do in partnership with all the other 7 health boards across Wales. The board's role is to develop and agree the strategy for the health board, making sure that there's good governance in place and good systems of control, that they're robust, and really importantly, the board has a critical role in shaping a positive culture for the organisation. The following slide, which I'd like to share, sets out our plan on a page, which is summarising the priorities we set in 2022-23. I'm not sure if the slides are moving on my part, but it seems to be stuck, so I'll just carry on at the moment. So in this slide, yes, great, it's moved forward now, lovely. Our strategic priorities, you'll see, look familiar, and that's why we've been working alongside our partners since 2017 to deliver our health and care strategy, which is called A Healthy Caring Powys. That set out a 10-year strategy for us to continue to work together towards, and within that, my plan is to, in this presentation, just to highlight some of the key areas of work and achievements during the last year. So the first priority I'd like to focus on is focus on well-being. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is a really important aspect of our work to protect population health and to promote well-being. We continue to have the highest rates of breastfeeding in Wales, and we've made excellent progress around good uptake levels for childhood vaccination, but we do have to continue our efforts to improve MMR uptake for children at the age of 5. With regard to flu vaccination, we've targeted our work now to try and increase uptake for people under 65 years of age, pregnant women and healthcare workers, but we are pleased that we delivered good uptake levels for the over 65-year cohort. We are continuing in our campaign to manage COVID with the booster vaccination campaign, and that's been really successful throughout and continues to deliver very good uptake levels. And importantly, there's a piece of work that was started during this year around healthy weight management, working across all of our partners to make sure that we're increasing activity and impact to tackle obesity levels in the county and to promote that in partnership with the local authority, the third sector and other key partners across Powys. And just to give you a bit of a sense, that is one of the key strategic priorities that the Public Services Board has set, is to do that work on healthy weight management in partnership. In the next slide, I'd like to focus on early help and support. This is the second strategic objective that we've set. Excellent primary care services form the foundation and front door of the NHS, and demands remain very high on these services. So sustaining and improving primary care access continues to be a strong priority for us, and there are many different ways of working that have been put in place to try and improve the situation, and obviously we continue to do as much as we can to improve. Just some examples. We've a strong additional number of services that our GPs, our general medical services, deliver in Powys, really good enhanced services, making sure that we do more than the general sort of services around primary care access, because we recognise our patients already travel furthest if they need to go further afield for treatment. So really pleased with the number of services our GP practices deliver across the county. The Work that was done many years ago and has continued to flourish in Powys around our virtual wards has been important to try and avoid unnecessary admissions to hospital. And again, really pleased that our GP practices all participate and deliver virtual wards. The other aspect that we've been really focusing on is how do primary care services, so all primary care services alongside the community services, social care and the third sector, work more closely together to plan and deliver services, and again made excellent progress. There's a programme called Accelerated Cluster Development, which is part of a national programme for primary care. We've made really good progress in developing these clusters across Powys and continue to work in partnership to look at alternative and different ways of working that we can bring through people working across the boundaries of practices and in a multidisciplinary way. I'm also really pleased with the progress that's been made in community pharmacy. So the number of independent pharmacy prescribers in Powys has increased, and all of our pharmacies offer the common ailment scheme, which is absolutely brilliant. Our optometrists as well continue to expand their offer, and we've made progress with additional urgent eye care provision in the county. Finally, dental access does continue to remain to be a challenge, and we continue to work alongside our general dental services to try and improve the access situation. And that is supported quite a lot by our community dental services, who have helped create additional urgent access dental slots across the county. We also operate a mobile dental unit across the county to areas of need, and also the work that's been undertaken generally around training and education opportunities to try and grow the dental workforce. Really important work, but I do recognise that we've got more to do to meet the requirements of our local population. The next slide sets out some of the work around planned care and diagnostics, and I do appreciate that across all of NHS services at the moment that people are waiting longer than we would like for treatment. We do deliver a number of services within Powys, including outpatient, day case surgery, diagnostics and endoscopy, and generally our performance, we've made really good progress during the year. Performance more generally across services, though, that we commission in both England and Wales continue to be very challenged, and in particular that we've got a strong focus now on tackling the longest waits for people. So at the end of the financial year, you'll see that it was reduced from the previous year, which was over 700, but unfortunately we still had in March 429 patients waiting over 104 weeks. And in particular, that is a challenge that we're continuously focused on in making progress with our neighbouring health boards in Wales and also with our providers in England. The next slide highlights a little bit of work around children, young people and families. We have found, unfortunately, that again, the demand for services remains very high and the number of referrals that we receive into services continues to grow. We have had robust compliance against the 4-week standard for access to the child, adolescent and mental health services, and we're still working hard to improve access to neurodevelopmental services. We need to do more there in order to meet the standard for children and young people to wait less than 6 months for assessment, and there continues to be more to do. We work in partnership through the Start Well partnership as part of the Regional Partnership Board, and again, really important work with education, third sector, social care to take forward work around supporting the emotional and health and well-being needs of children and young people. I'm really pleased with the Junior Start Well board that's been set up, and that comprises young people themselves between the ages of 11 and 25, and that is to specifically help us to make sure that young people have their say and can influence the work of the Start Well partnership. Maternity services, again, continues to have a strong focus throughout the year, and we're pleased that we play a very important role, not only locally in the services that we deliver, but also in participation in some of the national programmes of improvement around maternity and neonatal care across our partners, both in Wales and England. And one example is we expanded our outreach community perinatal service during the year, and this service delivers support in the family home with midwives, health visitors and nursery nurses, offering training and experience so that basically that enables us to identify support and signpost parents to available additional support. On the next slide, we did set in our strategy that we would tackle the big four, and those are respiratory, circulatory, mental health and cancer. Last year's AGM, we focused in on the Breathe Well programme, which is the respiratory programme, and circulatory disease. So I thought today I would sort of highlight the other two aspects, which is around mental health and cancer. So for mental health, I wanted to draw out a few highlights. First, we've successfully rolled out the 111 Press 2 for urgent mental health support. So individuals can call 111 and press the option 2, and the service is available for people of all ages, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in Powys. And this is to make sure that those in need of support can access it quickly and when they need it most. For information, the number is free to call on a landline or a mobile, even if you have no credit left on your phone. So it's a really accessible phone line, and hopefully we've been able to offer that support to a large number of our population since it went live earlier this year. We've also rolled out the Silver Cloud service, and we led this on a national basis across Wales. This is a service that offers guided self-help courses and is a free online mental health support service available through NHS Wales, and it's without a GP referral, so you can self-refer to this service. We offer a range of support, for example, mild to moderate depression, around stress, sleeping difficulties and more. And again, this programme is accessible anywhere at any time. And we also offer a bit of blended support with the third sector as well for those who would like to access it. The final area I wanted to pick up on was around suicide and self-harm prevention. This continues to be a serious challenge for us across Wales, but particularly in Powys. We've made this a key priority. And the work that the team have done through establishing a forum has gone from strength to strength. And we are implementing the Talk to Me 2 suicide and self-harm strategy. We've extended the Powys postvention service with rapid access to care and support for those people bereaved through suicide or other unexplained death, including support to manage practical matters. The next slide covers cancer. Again, a huge priority and really important that we make progress here. So really pleased that the catch-up programme that was in place after the pandemic has been successful, and now we have got made good progress around breast, bowel and cervical screening uptake rates. And we're pleased, really, we have the best performance in Wales currently. So this ensures we can achieve the earlier detection of cancer, which improve patient outcomes. We've also got all the GPs accessing symptomatic fit services, which means we're able to identify people with early stages of bowel cancer. And then another example is a cytosponge pilot that we've been involved with, which is again making sure that we can rapidly prioritise patients that are most at risk of developing esophageal, sorry, can't say that word, esophageal, no, I've said it again, never mind, detecting cancer, apologies, I'm tripping over my words. So on the next slide, if it's okay, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on our urgent and emergency care provision. We know that we have substantial pressures in this system currently, and the concurrent risks that we've been managing, such as flu, COVID, cold weather, industrial action and other factors are presenting continued demand in the urgent and emergency care system. This isn't just a winter issue anymore. This is an issue that we see throughout the year, with peaks of demand often taking place during the cold weather times in winter. Substantial pressures continue also across social care and health, and we continue to have a strong focus on making sure that our patients are able to flow back into the county who've had to go out of county for acute care, and also to try and reduce length of stay of patients in our hospitals to get them back home as quickly as possible. Our minor injury units perform well, and I'm really pleased that we have a very stable GP out of hours service and provision in the county, and that performs well. And we continue to work closely with Wales Ambulance Services Trust to try and improve the very substantial challenges we have, particularly noting the Red Ambulance performance hasn't been able to meet the target for the majority of the year that we're referencing here, and that continues to be an area of focus for the board. I think the next slide is important because it's about our workforce. So our workforce are absolutely critical to delivering our ambition, and we are working in a difficult environment with national workforce shortages, and that's not just in health but also in the social care sector. So we really want to reduce our use of agency staffing and offer secure roles for the workforce in Powys. So part of our strategy around this is the work that we've done to develop the Health and Care Academy, and in particular the really successful programme around aspiring nurses has been really beneficial, as well as the work to deliver additional training and education to support healthcare support workers. We're also working alongside NHS Wales to secure overseas nurses, and we continue to have plans for the future to take that to the next stage of development. And the final point I wanted to raise was about the importance of staff wellbeing. Working alongside our staff side and trade union partners, as an organisation, we are very keen to make sure that we put the staff's wellbeing at the forefront of our minds. So an example of this, a new employee assistance service has been launched to enable staff to speak in confidence to fully qualified counsellors and support specialists, and this is available 24/7, 365 days a year, and this is available for them to discuss any emotional, personal or work-related illness. So really important work there. Just a couple more slides and then I'll end. Digital first is a key component of our work, and gosh, digital technology has completely changed the way in which we work over the years, and there are so many rapid developments occurring that it's very hard to keep up. But you know, the potential of digital supporting future capability and new ways of working and new applications to help us deliver healthcare is really exciting. And you'll see examples listed below on this slide that are not only just focused on the basic foundations of having a strong infrastructure, cyber security, keeping personal information safe, etc., but also some of the local and national developments that we've been involved with to improve access for patients, information and experience, and also to improve the way staff are working with digital systems to create more efficient ways of working. So the team have developed a lot of work in this field, and in particular just highlight one element, which is the community training platform, which has been put in place to support patients to access health and care self-help support services. Next slide covers our environment. We know we have a very old estate in Powys, and we've got a lot of work to do to attract further capital investment to ensure that we can deliver fit for purpose facilities for modern healthcare. We continue to make good progress. Really pleased. We opened the Broadderby Community Hospital refurbishment in May, but most of the work took place during this year. and this signified a really major step forward in our ambition to deliver joined-up care from primary, community, mental health, social care and third sector partners in the Machynlleth area, and that will be rolled out in our thinking around our strategy for other areas across Powys as well. And also we remain completely committed as a board to delivering and focusing on our role in tackling the climate change emergency. We delivered against our in-year target to reduce carbon emissions, and biodiversity is embedded in our approach to capital projects and investments. Nearly there, just a couple more slides. Transforming in partnership. Now, I just wanted to reiterate Carl's thanks at the start, not only to the staff that we work internally within our organisation together on these matters, but also with our key partners. And we've had a lot of work to do in partnership, both within Powys and across our borders over this year. A lot of the groundwork that we've done internally was about getting ready to implement the duty of quality and duty of candour from April of this year. So again, our duty here is to create a culture of quality, focusing on improving the quality of health services and outcomes, and how we actively monitor improvement and share this information proactively with the public. So I know we'll be able to report in our next AGM a lot about how our first year of implementation of the duty of quality has gone. So really important work. And then the work of the Regional Partnership Board, Public Services Board in Powys feature very strongly in both our plans and in our day-to-day work. And in particular, I just wanted to highlight the work on the North Powys Wellbeing Programme to develop a multi-agency campus in the Newtown area is still progressing, and we hope to make further progress this year to bring that exciting sort of opportunity further forward for consideration by Welsh Government for investment. And also we started the work on our Accelerated Sustainable Programme, which is again important work to look at the future model of health and care in Powys and how that needs to change for the future, particularly because we all have partners in Powys and with our borders that we're all struggling with a shared challenge of how we keep up with demand and the different shape of issues that we need to deal with, as well as needing to make sure that we co-produce that with our public and the communities around that future opportunities and model that we put in place. Good governance then, it's probably the last slide, I think, yes it is really important that the board can take assurance that how we're managing our business is fit for purpose. And Carl mentioned earlier about the changes at board level, but I just wanted to say that we did remain in routine monitoring arrangements during this financial year of 22-23. We had a reasonable assurance opinion from the head of internal audit and a positive Audit Wales structured assessment. Really important that those sort of external checks that take place have been positive for us, so we can take confidence from those assessments. But we are still managing a number of significant risks as an organisation and across the whole system of health and care. Some of these risks look broadly similar to previous year's risks at a general level, and I've just mentioned to you some of the challenges that we've had around workforce recruitment and retention, and the particular issues around increasing demands on services, particularly felt, I feel, in primary care. Currently, the growth rate is just increasing against a capacity that is finite. And then finally, the financial outlook generally for public sector services and some of the challenges that the First Minister mentioned in a statement a week or so ago about the challenge that we have across the whole of Wales around the public sector costs and the financial budget that is available is clearly not only just a challenge for us in Powys, but something that we'll work in partnership on with others. So if it's okay, I'll hand over to Pete now. I've just mentioned the unprecedented demand and financial pressures. Pete, as an introduction to you coming in to provide an overview of the finance. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hayley. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pete Hopgood, Director of Finance. I'm just going to take you through some slides to highlight our financial performance in the year 2022-23. Our full set of accounts are available on our website as part of our annual report, but the slides I'm going to take you through will just give you some of those key indicators for the financial year as I just stated. So in terms of our three key performance targets, to remain within our funding allocated in terms of revenue, we unfortunately failed against this duty, and we ended up with a year-end overspend of just over 7 million. Against our capital duty to remain with the capital funding as allocated, we did achieve this, and we delivered a surplus of £68,000. And in relation to the administrative duty to pay all non-NHS creditors within 30 days, 95% of those, we delivered a performance of 88.7%, so we fell short in this area too. Next slide, please. So our statutory duty is to deliver a break-even position over a 3-year period. So what that means is that our expenditure should remain within the funding allocated for that 3-year period when aggregated together. On the slide here, we've just got a simple bar chart diagram, which demonstrates our performance over the last 3 years and the aggregate total for the period. So as you can see, we delivered a surplus against revenue in 2021 of 143,000, a surplus in 21-22 of 80,000, and then the overspends I've just referenced of just over 7 million in 22-23. That gives us an aggregated performance over the 3 years of an overspend of 6.8 million. What I should have said on the previous slide is that deficit position for 22-23 is the first time the Health Board has not delivered break-even since 2015. So clearly it is a significant issue for us as a Health Board. We continue to have a deficit plan in the current year, 23-24, and as per the financial challenge that Hayley has just alluded to. If I can draw your attention to the table at the bottom, you can see our high level performance year on year, which delivers the two surpluses and the overspend in 22-23. And what I just want to highlight for everyone who's viewing is that over that 3-year period, we've had a total spend of £1.14 billion. So that's how much we spent as a Health Board in terms of providing care and good health outcomes for our population of Powys over that 3-year period. And as you can see from the bottom right corner, that has had an overspend of 6.8 million for the 3-year period. Thank you. Next slide. This is the same analysis for our capital position. Again, it's the same duty to remain within the funding as allocated over a 3-year period. That is a statutory duty. We have delivered on this one. As you can see, we delivered a surplus for our capital programme of 27,000 and 67,000 in the preceding 2 years, and in 22-23, £68,000 surplus. That means over the 3-year period, we've delivered a surplus of £162,000. And again, looking to the table at the bottom there, you can see that over that 3-year period, we've had a total capital spend of £34.96 million, which is a significant level of investment for ourselves in Powys. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. So in relation to the public sector payment policy, as I've said, there's a duty to pay 95% of non-NHS invoices within 30 days. If I just refer you to the table and the first column where there's highlighted yellow, you can see that in the period we had a total number of bills paid of 50,746. That's the number of bills, and 44,751 of those were paid within the target, which gives a performance of 88.7%. Now we are aware of the areas where we felt pressure in terms of meeting this target, and there's an action plan in place to improve our performance and look to get that to the 95% in the current year. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a high level breakdown of our spend over our three key spend areas, that being primary healthcare services, expenditure on healthcare from other providers, and expenditure on our own hospital and community health services. And what I just want to highlight to people viewing is that in 22-23 we had a total spend of just under £412 million, and that has been an increase from the £399 million in the previous year. As we move forward into the next slides, we'll give a further breakdown against those three key expenditure areas in terms of revenue. So this first slide, and then we've taken comments from last year's AGM where people said that they liked the pie charts as a way of understanding how our spend has moved year on year. So what you have here is analysis of our primary care services spend for 22-23 and 21-22. Just on the highest level, you can see that the breakdown of our spend in the two pie charts is very similar year on year. So there hasn't been a significant change in the makeup of our spend. And the main significant areas on there, that the blue is our general medical services and the green is our prescribed drugs and appliances. Just want to highlight that we did see an increase in our prescribed drugs. Mainly that relates to increased activity and no cheaper stock being available, i.e. that being price inflation. Thank you. Next slide. Similarly, again, same sort of presentation is that we've got the pie charts dealing our expenditure on other healthcare providers. So this is where we get our secondary care services and our tertiary care services from our other providers. Again, if you look at the pie charts for 22-23 at the top and 21-22 at the bottom, you can see that the breakdown across the different areas is again very similar. There's a similar breakdown. Just to pull out some of the key segments there, the blue is the services we've received from other NHS bodies. The orange is those services received from non-Welsh bodies, so some of our English providers, including Valley, and also included on there in green is our spend on continuing healthcare and complex care. Oh, I am getting some. Sorry, I got some feedback then. Apologies. And just some key issues to highlight in relation to our spend in this area. There's been an increase in our spend with our non-Welsh providers, which in the main relates to Valley. There's been an increase in our spend on complex care and continuing healthcare, and an increase in our spend in our tertiary services and on our emergency and ambulance services with WISC and EASC, which is linked to the original plan as part of our IMTP process. And there has been a decrease in our spend with the local authority, and that has been linked to the reduction of funding and expenditure in relation to test, trace and protect. Sorry. Next slide, please. So that this third area details our expenditure on our hospital and community services, so our provider services. Again, the analysis using a pie chart between 22-23 and 21-22. Again, you can see there's a similar makeup of the spend in terms of percentage of the total. The blue area, which will not be a surprise, is our spend on pay our own staff, so in terms of salaries. And just to note, there was a significant increase in this area, which in the main related to pay awards as awarded in year. Next slide, please. So on the back of us not delivering a break-even financial position and exceeding our revenue allocation, we did receive a qualified opinion from the Auditor General and Audit Wales. That is because our spending more than our allocation is deemed to be irregular, and as such we get a qualified opinion. However, we did get an unqualified opinion in terms of the true and fair condition of our financial statements. So this means that we had a clean sort of pass from Audit Wales in terms of the true and fairness of our reports and our financial information as stated and as included in our accounts, which is obviously very important, even though the fact that we did have a financial overspend in 22-23. then in terms of the final slide for the finance and the account section, just a reminder there for 22-23, we did not meet our revenue resource performance requirement. We did meet the capital resource requirement, and we did have an approved INTP going into that year. And a reminder of the unqualified audit report on the financial statements for the true and fair opinion. And I just to pause there and just to go back to Hayley's point that significant financial challenge going forward. It's really important that we maintain our discipline as a board and deliver the plans that we identify in terms of financial performance. And even though we overspent in 22-23, we held to the forecast position that we made during the year, and that was as a result of everyone's actions to maintain and minimise our spend as far as possible and stop that overspend increasing any further. And I'll stop there, thank you, and I think hand back to either Hayley or Carl.
Actually, handing over to me now, Pete, if that's okay, because we're moving into our section about Q&A. So diolch o galon, Carl, Hayley a Pete. Thank you, Carl, Hayley and Pete. Now, a really vital part of our AGM is the questions we receive from public and stakeholders. And first of all, a question in Cymraeg, which Hayley, hopefully you might be happy to answer. So, yn dilyn y datblygiad yn ysbyty bryddodd i berth ewr manteision o ddod ar feddygfa a gwasanaethau ysbyty at ei gilydd.
Diolch, Adrian. Cymraeg ardderchog hefyd, so diolch yn fawr. Cwestiwn dda iawn. Mae'r staff wrth ei bodd gyda'r llety newydd ac hefyd mae'r practis wedi derbyn llawer o adborth gadarnhaol gan gleifion. Wnaeth y practis gynnal eu clinicau brechu ffliw a Covid cyntaf ac wedi nodi bod wedi mynd yn dda iawn. Mae staff hefyd, gan gynnwys y staff sy'n gweithio yn y gymuned, wedi croesawu ansawdd gwell o'i hamgylchedd gwaith, ac mae'r ymgylchedd hefyd wedi cryfhau cydweithio. Mae aelodau'r cyhoedd a staff yn mwynhau'r ardd therapiwtig a gwaith celf a ddatblygwyd fel rhan o'r cynllun, a rydyn ni'n edrych ymlaen iawn at groesawu aelodau'r cyhoedd i'r caffi croeso yn y misoedd i ddod. Mae 'da ni holiadur hefyd wedi cael ei datblygu ac rydyn ni'n gofyn i bobl roi adborth ar y cyfleuster newydd. Rydyn ni'n casglu'r adborth hwn i gynorthwyo gyda'n cynlluniau yn y dyfodol. So just to say, the staff are really delighted, including the practice, with their new accommodation. We recently had lots of positive feedback from patients. The practice ran their first flu and COVID vaccination clinics in the facility recently and commented that the flow and the environment really worked very well. Staff, including those based in community services who see the facility as a base, have really welcomed the improved quality of the working environment and the environment for patients, and joint working has improved as a result of being co-located together across both a range of services. Members of the public and staff have said and given us feedback that they enjoy the therapeutic garden and artwork developed as part of the scheme, and really had positive feedback as well from local artists, craftspeople, and particularly the use of the Welsh language within the Health Board's first Art in Health initiative that took place in the Broadderby facility. We do look forward to welcoming members of the community to our Caffi Croeso when it's opening in the next couple of months, and a questionnaire has also been developed, and we're asking patients who attend the facilities for further feedback so that can assist us with our future plans. Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you very much, Hayley. And they certainly put on an excellent show, didn't they, for NHS 75, bringing the whole team at the hospital and with the community together. So particularly well done to Aled, Janet, Ileri and the team for the incredible NHS 75 celebrations. Now, the next question we've just had in, I wonder if I can put that to Claire Roche, our Executive Director of Nursing and Midwifery. In fact, I've got two questions here, but I'll ask them in turn if that's okay. So the first question, Claire, so why has the Health Board already reintroduced masks in hospitals in Powys?
Diolch, thank you, Adrian. I hope you can hear me. I don't know why my camera has just stopped working, so
I can see and hear you.
Oh, good. That's good because I can't see myself, but that's okay. That's a blessing. Okay, the reason that we've introduced masks into Powys, and it's a really good question, is that we have seen rising rates of COVID-19 circulating in our community in recent weeks, and we watch really closely and are informed by the data from Public Health Wales. And Public Health Wales data is currently showing a steep rise in COVID-19 in our communities, and actually further significant increases are also predicted for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and we will continuously monitor that situation. But basically, the World Health Organization currently strongly advise the use of face masks for healthcare workers, patients and visitors when COVID-19 is circulating in communities, and therefore we are following that guidance and responding as such.
Thank you so much, Claire, and I'll post some information in the announcement space for this meeting as well, that just lets people know about what our current visiting guidance is and how they can find out more and how they can help us protect our staff and their loved ones in our hospitals as well. Now, the next question, if you're happy to come back in again, we've had a few questions about recruitment, and recruitment can be quite challenging for the NHS at the moment. We've had several questions on this, including from Derek Brown from the RCN. Now, we've already heard from Hayley about some of the steps the Health Board has taken in the last year on recruitment. Would you be able to set out what our plans are for the future to make sure we have a safe and sustainable nursing workforce?
Yeah, thank you so much, Adrian, and thank you to Derek for posing this question. It's really, really important. And broadly, as a health board, I would say that we are maintaining with our workforce future strategy, both in terms of growing our own nursing workforce for a sustainable nursing workforce in Powys, but also encouraging nurses to be able to come and work in Powys and see us as an employer of choice. Now, Hayley touched on quite a few things in the presentation, not least the fact that we have had increased number of student nurses coming into Powys, and we continue to work with universities across Wales to be able to do that in a variety of different ways. So providing additional opportunities for students to study in a way that will suit them. And one of those examples is the work that we've been progressing with Bangor University on a dispersed learning model. Our aspiring nurse programme is going from strength to strength, and we are seeing increasing numbers of aspiring nurses undertaking that programme within Powys through the Open University. In terms of our overseas nurses, we have really had some excellent success with overseas nurses into the Health Board in recent times, and we are progressing that and seeking to bring in even more overseas nurses in 23-24 and into the future. In addition to that, I would say that's very much sort of what we are doing locally within Powys. So it is a multi-swim lane approach is the best way that I would describe that. I would also want to reiterate that we are continuing to recruit into our vacant nursing posts. Our vacant nursing posts are still being advertised, and we are still continuing to recruit into them. And then nationally, we work really closely with our partners in HIW, both on the nursing workforce plan, and in particular on the most recently published nurse retention plan, understanding what we can do in terms of being able to retain those nurses that we have, and both my professional colleagues and our workforce colleagues are working in partnership on that. And we're also engaged in the work that's being done nationally in terms of multi-professional working. I think it's really important to recognise that the way care is being delivered now is really kind of considering care close to home, much more integrated way of working, both within the community and those pathways into secondary care. And therefore, it is really, really important that as a nursing and midwifery workforce, that we make sure that we are progressing on multi-professional working, as well as the way in which we are obviously growing our own profession in Powys.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Claire, for a very fulsome answer there, and really useful to hear both about the work that's already progressed and the plans for the future as well. Now, you've mentioned there about COVID and the rising rates of COVID and how that's affected the principles and policies we've got in our hospitals around mask wearing. So that's a really nice segue into the next question, which I hope that Ms. Bowley, our Executive Director of Public Health, might help us with, which is, how do people access their COVID vaccination this year in Powys, and how's the programme going so far?
Okay, diolch Adrian. Thank you, Adrian, and pnawn da. So in terms of COVID vaccinations, we are delivering a blended delivery model this autumn, and that includes our vaccination centres at Newtown and Brontlis. Some GP practices are also participating, and we have mobile teams as well. So the programme is aimed at protecting those at greatest risk from COVID and to add resilience to our health and social care system. So eligible groups include residents aged 65 years and over, individuals in at-risk groups, and health and social care staff. And individuals will be invited by letter, and I would encourage residents to continue to take up their first appointment this autumn to get protected as soon as possible. And in terms of progress, so the programme started on 11th of September, so that's just over 2 weeks ago. And in the first 5 days of the programme, every care home for older adults was visited and residents offered vaccination. And then the rollout continues with residents invited in priority order to one of our dedicated clinics. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank residents for responding and for working with the vaccination service. And I would encourage you to take up both your COVID and also flu vaccination this autumn if eligible. And that will offer yourself, your families and loved ones, vulnerable individuals, the best protection from respiratory viruses as we go into the autumn and winter period.
Thank you so much, Mez. I remember this time last year when we were doing the annual general meeting last year, I was working at the heart of the vaccination programme, so it's lovely to hear the progress that it's continuing to make and that important call to action to our communities to get that vital protection as we head into the winter, both from COVID and from flu. Now, the timing, I think, is working out quite well for us here, because I have one final question which I hope that Carl will come in on, and so potentially Carl will have the opportunity to answer this question and then move into any closing remarks before we finish our annual general meeting. So, Carl, given the significant financial challenges we've heard about that are facing the public sector, how will public bodies in Powys work together to minimise the adverse impact on citizens?
Diolch, Adrian. Y peth cyntaf dwi am ddweud falle ydy bod gweithio mewn partneriaeth a chydweithio wedi bod yn flaenoriaeth allweddol i'r Bwrdd Iechyd erioed mewn gwirionedd, ond yn sicr wrth i ni edrych ymlaen at y dyfodol, mae yn flaenoriaeth yn fwy pwysig i ni wrth i ni gyda'n gilydd gwynebu'r heriau sydd o'n blaen ni. Partnership and collaboration, co-production, to use a bit of jargon, is a key priority for us as a health board. I think certainly Hayley's presentation earlier in our meeting, I think illustrated very powerfully how not just we are in principle committed, but we're actually working together with partners in the local authority, in the third sector, and in other organisations. Now, there are formal arrangements for this, and Hayley made mention of the Public Services Board, the Regional Partnership Board. We also have a joint partnership board, which brings us together in a bilateral partnership with the local authority. Importantly, it involves, or certainly the PSB involves wider partners, such as the police, fire and rescue, the National Park, Natural Resources Wales. So there are all those formal ways in which we come together, but equally importantly, we come together informally. So I meet regularly with the leader of the council. We have our informal meetings with the chief executive of PAVO. Our executive teams just last week had one of their most recent meetings to look at how we can better work together. And equally, Hayley meets with her fellow chief executive officers across the county regularly. So I wanted just to offer that assurance that there are both formal and informal arrangements in place. Now, of course, these are not an end in themselves, they're a means to an end. And I think the questioner has absolutely hit the nail on the head. We are all facing very, very difficult challenges, financial and otherwise. And certainly those meetings, those conversations are about looking at our resource across the system and making sure that we use that resource together as effectively and as efficiently as possible. So I'm very happy to offer that assurance that, as I say, in those very different ways, we are in that business. It's not easy. It's not easy at all, but certainly partnership, collaboration, co-production is very, very high on our priorities and on the way in which we operate. So thank you for the question and for all the questions. It just remains for me now to thank everyone who has attended this live stream and who is watching this recording perhaps after today, but also, as I intimated earlier, to thank all of my board colleagues and everyone across the organisation for the tremendous work that happens day in, day out across Powys Teaching Health Board in Powys. It really is remarkable, inspiring and motivating. So diolch o galon a diolch am ymuno â ni heddiw yn ein cyfarfod blynyddol. Wedi bod yn bleser I gael eich cwmni. Ond am rŵan, hwyl fawr.